Good afternoon. This is All India Radio. I'm Anuja Kumar, and with me is Abhishek Mukhopadhyay with the Midday News. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in World Leaders Summit on COP26 in Glasgow this afternoon. G20 Summit adopts Rome Declaration. Member countries agree on reciprocal recognition of vaccines and faster approval by WHO. Prime Minister holds bilateral meetings with his Spanish counterpart and German Chancellor in Rome on the sidelines of G20 Summit. Har Ghar Dastak nationwide vaccination campaign begins from today. Country's vaccination coverage crosses 106 crore 34 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 98.2%. Several states celebrate their Foundation Day. Delhi schools reopen for all classes from today. Health Minister Mansukh Mandviya reviews dengue situation in Delhi. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida declares victory for his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. And in men's T20 World Cup cricket, England to take on Sri Lanka in the Super 12 match in Sharjah this evening. As India created history by administering 100 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, All India Radio salutes all the doctors, nurses, other frontline workers and all those who got vaccinated and made this possible. Even though the country has achieved this feat, we caution our listeners that the battle against COVID is not yet over. We appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and also help others get vaccinated. During the festival season, please follow these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact national helpline numbers 01123978046 and 1075. And now, the news in detail. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has reached Glasgow to attend the World Leaders Summit of the 26th Conference of Parties COP26 to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Mr. Modi received a rousing welcome from the Indian community when he reached at a hotel in Glasgow.
Very excited. So first time Modi ji come to Scotland and we are very excited about it. Looking forward to it.
We're very happy to
see him.
We're so excited. We saw him. Oh wow. We're overwhelmed to see him actually. It is fantastic to meet him, greet him.
During the 2-day visit, Mr. Modi will also hold several bilateral meetings on the sidelines of COP26, including with the UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson. In a tweet, Mr. Modi said he looks forward to working with other world leaders on mitigating climate change and articulating India's efforts in this regard. The COP26 summit will end on the 12th of this month, and during this period, meetings will collectively discuss over 100 agenda items. The high-level segment of the COP26 is being held today and tomorrow, in which heads of state of more than 120 countries are participating. At COP26, the parties will work to achieve the completion of Paris Agreement implementation guidelines, the mobilization of climate finance, actions to strengthen climate adaptation, technology development and transfer, and keeping in reach the Paris Agreement goals of limiting the rise in global temperatures. We have with us our correspondent Divakar, who is in Glasgow to cover the summit. Divakar, how much significant is the summit and what would India's approach be on the issue of climate change?
Well, Anuja, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change embodies the global will and vision to combat climate change. And for 3 decades, the UN has been bringing together almost every country in the world for this global climate change summit. And it provides an opportunity for stock taking and charting the way forward to combat climate change. Prime Minister Narendra Modi had attended the summit in Paris in 2015. And when the Paris Agreement was concluded, and this year marks the start of the implementation of the Paris Agreement. India has almost achieved its nationally determined contributions, and during this summit, it will push for climate financing and technology transfer among other issues. And New Delhi is also expected to emphasize on lessening carbon emission during the summit. Anuja.
Divakar, what is the agenda of today's COP26 meeting and also the engagements of the Prime Minister?
Anuja, today COP26 opening ceremony will be held in which world leaders including Prime Minister Narendra Modi are going to participate. A session titled Action and Solidarity, the critical decades will also take place. Besides, Mr. Modi will make remarks during the national statements by the world leaders. He is also scheduled to hold a bilateral meeting with his UK counterpart Boris Johnson. And before all these events, the Prime Minister will meet community representatives and Indologists on the sidelines of COP26. Anuja.
Thank you, Divakar. The Conference of the Parties, COP, is an annual summit under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. This is a global agreement signed in 1992 between 197 countries to prevent dangerous human interference with the climate system. A key task for the COP is to review the national communications and emission inventories submitted by parties. The first COP meeting was held in Berlin, Germany in March 1995.
In the run-up to the UN Climate Summit or the Conference of Parties COP26, All India Radio brings to you a Ready Reckoner. Under the COP26 Explainer series, we will bring for you daily the terms and concepts that will be in use over the next fortnight. Today we shall talk about the climate justice. In recent years, the notion of climate justice has emerged as a way of encapsulating the equity aspects of climate change. Climate justice builds on a platform of equitable development, human rights and political voice. It is an agenda that seeks to redress global warming by reducing disparities in development and power that drive climate change and continued injustice. This implies transformative changes and the need to look beyond national boundaries to what is good for the world as a whole. Climate justice links human rights and development to achieve a human-centered approach, safeguarding the rights of the most vulnerable and sharing the burdens and benefits of climate change and its resolution equitably and fairly. In an exclusive interview to AI News on India's stand at the COP26 with regards to reduction of carbon emission, environmentalist Dr. C.K. Varshane said,
We have got Global Alliance, which ultimately also got the UN, approval. And for that, India has also proposed one sun, one world, one grid. Now, this kind of an proposal is something which requires commitment from the countries. For this, as it will have a great impact in reducing carbon emission. But this requires capital investment. And for that, again, finances are needed. And therefore, it is time that this proposal which India has been proposing must also be financed. And countries must forward to provide the necessary finance for this.
The G20 summit, which concluded yesterday, has adopted Rome Declaration. The member countries have agreed on mutual recognition of vaccines, strengthening of WHO to give faster approvals to vaccines, and suspending debt servicing for developing countries till December 2021. Briefing media in Rome, Union Minister and India's G20 Sherpa, Piyush Goyal said, G20 Rome has delivered a strong message of recovery from the pandemic in terms of economy, health, employment, education, tourism, and most importantly, climate action. He said G20 has identified sustainable and responsible consumption and production along with provision of finance and technology as critical enablers to achieving climate goals.
On agriculture, we are very delighted to share with you that livelihoods for small and marginal farmers were at the focus of our discussions, and everybody has agreed that improving their livelihood is an important global effort that we all have to put in. Energy and climate was clearly the center stage of our discussions. India and many other developing countries pushed for safeguarding the interests of the developing world. We were also joined by the developed countries to increase the ambition from the current levels of commitment and active interest that the developed world has shown.
The Sherpa said a lot of the agenda of developing countries in which India has been taking a leadership role has been brought into the text of the Rome Declaration. More from our correspondent.
In the declaration, the world leaders said they are committed to overcoming the global health and economic crisis stemming from the pandemic, which has affected billions of lives and hampered progress towards the achievement of sustainable development goals and disrupted global supply chains and international mobility. Underlining the crucial role of multilateralism in finding shared, effective solutions, the leaders have agreed to further strengthen common response to the pandemic and pave the way for global recovery. The G20 nations have agreed to open a shared vision to combat climate change and taken important steps towards the achievement of gender equality. They have also further advanced their common efforts to ensure that the benefits of digitization are shared broadly, safely, and contribute to reducing inequalities. With the report of Diwakar, Anupam Mishra, AIR News.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi met his Spanish counterpart Pedro Sanchez yesterday on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Rome. The two leaders held discussion to strengthen bilateral relations. Both leaders had fruitful talks on ways to deepen ties between India and Spain. The two nations are cooperating extensively in areas such as trade, energy, innovation and more. Mr. Modi invited Spain to invest in various sectors in India, including green hydrogen, infrastructure and defence manufacturing, and further take advantage of India's national infrastructure pipeline, asset monetization plan and the Gati Shakti plan.
More than 106 crore 34 lakh COVID-19 vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far under the nationwide vaccination drive. Out of the total vaccination, more than 73 crore 39 lakh vaccine doses have been given as first dose, while over 32 crore 95 lakh doses have been administered as second dose. Health Ministry said over 12 lakh 77,000 doses were administered yesterday. We spoke to Niti Aayog member V.K. Paul about the vaccination drive.
106 करोड़ वैक्सीनेशन लगने के बाद भी अभी हमने हर वयस्क को टीका लगाना है पहला, और फिर उसके बाद 2 टीका लगने से ही काम पूरा होता है। और इसीलिए भारत सरकार ने हर घर दस्तक कार्यक्रम आज से शुरू किया है। इस अभियान के अंतर्गत घर घर जाएंगे, खासकर उन जिलों में जहां वैक्सीनेशन की रफ्तार पीछे किसी भी वजह से कम हुई हो। तो विनती ये है कि हम इन हफ्तों में, इन दिनों में हम याद रखें कि जिसने पहला टीका नहीं लगाया है वो प्लीज अपना पहला टीका लगाए। जिन्होंने पहला लगा लिया है और दूसरे टीके का टाइम हो गया है, उसको देर मत करो। ये हमारे देश के लिए, हमारे परिवार के लिए, हम सबके लिए बहुत जरूरी है। अभी भी हम कोरोना वायरस से पूरी गारंटी लेके बच जाएंगे। ये तभी संभव हो पाएगा जब हमारा ये टीकाकरण का काम जो है वो 100% तक होगा।
India reported more than 12,000 new cases in the last 24 hours. India's active caseload stands at 1,58,817 and it is the lowest in 248 days. The ministry said the recovery rate is currently at 98.20%. Over 12,000 people recovered in the last 24 hours. In the last 24 hours, 251 deaths were reported.
Several schools in Delhi reopened for all classes from today after remaining closed for 19 months due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some schools will reopen after the Diwali week. Delhi Disaster Management Authority had announced that schools will reopen for all classes from 1st of November, even though teaching and learning will continue in blended mode. No parent will be forced to send their children for offline classes, and schools will continue all teaching learning activities in hybrid mode, online and offline. It will be up to the parents if they want their children to continue online classes or go to school. Schools will not call more than 50% of the total students at a time. Schools will ensure that all teaching and non-teaching staff members get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 at the earliest. In Maharashtra, Mumbai's famous Veer Mata Jijabai Bhosle Park and the zoo, a huge attraction for children, reopened from today. The Mumbai civic body, which maintains the zoo, has laid down certain conditions for the visitors due to the COVID-19 situation. We have more in this report from our correspondent.
Veer Mata Jijabai Udyan, popularly known as Rani Sa Bagh, is one of the favorite tourist attractions in Mumbai, especially for children. Now with decline in fresh cases of COVID-19 in Mumbai, the state government has taken the decision of reopening this zoo for people. The BMC has laid down certain conditions for the visitors due to the prevailing COVID situation. Garden and zoo will be open for tourists from 9:30 am to 6 pm. For the citizens coming for morning walk, it will remain open from 6 am to 8:30 am. The ticket counter in the zoo will be open till 4 pm. Wearing of face mask has been made mandatory to seek entry into the garden. This is Kunal Shinde, AIR News, Mumbai.
Health Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia today chaired a high-level meeting with Delhi to review the public health measures taken for control and management of dengue. He has directed officials to ramp up testing so that all cases of dengue are reported and treated properly. Apart from other measures, the Health Minister stressed on the identification of slums without regular supply of water, where water is stored for consumption. Mr. Mandavia also observed that some hospitals are overburdened with dengue cases, while beds continue to be empty in other hospitals. He suggested effective communication between all stakeholders as the way forward. He also requested Delhi officials to look into the possibility of repurposing COVID beds to treat dengue. You are listening to the Midday News on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in World Leaders Summit on COP26 in Glasgow this afternoon. G20 Summit adopts Rome Declaration. Member countries agree on reciprocal recognition of vaccines and faster approval by WHO. Prime Minister holds bilateral meetings with his Spanish counterpart and German Chancellor in Rome on the sidelines of G20 Summit. Har Ghar Dastak nationwide vaccination campaign begins from today. Country's vaccination coverage crosses 106 crore 34 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 98.20%. Several states celebrate the Foundation Day. Delhi schools reopen for all classes from today. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia reviews dengue situation in Delhi. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida declares victory for his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. And in men's T20 World Cup cricket, England to take on Sri Lanka in the Super 12 match in Sharjah this evening. And for quick news updates around the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
Welcome back to the Midday News on All India Radio. The GST revenues for October have been the second highest ever since introduction of GST, second only to that in April this year. The gross GST revenue collected in the month of October is 1,30,127 crore rupees. Out of this amount, CGST component is 23,861 crores, SGST is 30,421 crore, IGST is 67,361 crore, and cess is 8,484 crore rupees. The revenues for the month of October this year are 24% higher than the GST revenues in the same month last year. Counting of votes for by-polls to 3 Lok Sabha seats and 29 assembly constituencies across 13 states will be taken up tomorrow. Lok Sabha by-polls were held for Khandwa Lok Sabha constituency in Madhya Pradesh, Mandi in Himachal Pradesh, and the Union Territory of Dadra and Nagar Haveli. All 3 seats fell vacant after the incumbent MP's deaths. The by-elections to 29 assembly seats were held in 13 states, including Assam, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, Bihar, Karnataka, Haryana, and Maharashtra on the 30th of October.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu has greeted the people of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Haryana, Kerala, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Punjab and Union Territories of Andaman and Nicobar, Lakshadweep and Puducherry on the Formation Day today. Madhya Pradesh is celebrating its 66th Foundation Day today. The theme of this year's Foundation Day program is Self-Reliant Madhya Pradesh. More from a correspondent.
State-level Madhya Pradesh Utsav will be organized this evening at Lal Parade Ground, Bhopal. On the Foundation Day, various events based on public participation like singing, dance, debate, marathon, awareness rally and Prabhat Feri are being organized across the state. Major government buildings and historical monuments are decorated with attractive lights. Madhya Pradesh has covered many milestones in its journey of 65 years. Efforts are being made for the betterment of all sections of the society through schemes like 0% interest loan to farmers, Medhavi Vidyarthi Yojana, Ladli Lakshmi, Kanya Vivah and Sambal scheme. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Haryana is celebrating its 56th Formation Day today. On this day, in 1966, Haryana came into existence. It was carved out from Punjab. On Haryana Day, as per the announcement of the Chief Minister Manohar Lal, made a cultural program organized at Panchkula on the eve of Haryana Day, 100 more villages have been added to Mahara Gaon, Jagmag Gaon scheme for 24-hour power supply. Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai launched the Kannada Rajya Utsav or State Formation Day celebrations today in Bengaluru. It will be the 66th anniversary since the state of Karnataka came into existence in 1956. As part of the celebrations, the Chief Minister hoisted the Kannada flag and addressed the gathering.
In Puducherry, the 67th Liberation Day was celebrated with traditional fervour today. Chief Minister N. Rangasamy hosted the tricolour at the Gandhi Square in the Puducherry Beach Road. He was accorded a guard of honour by the Puducherry Police. On November 1st, 1954, Pondicherry along with the surrounding areas of Mahe, Yanam and Karaikal had the de facto transfer from France to the Republic of India. It was on this day that Pondicherry stopped being a French colony and became a union territory of India. Now let's listen to a special program, Azadi Ka Safar, highlighting the importance of the day during the freedom struggle.
आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव।
Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. Birth of a nation. India's glorious freedom struggle is one of the greatest struggles the modern world has ever witnessed. AIR News brings you a glimpse of this struggle every day.
1st November 1930, the Gadar Party started the weekly revolutionary publication Hindustan Gadar from the Yugantar Ashram in San Francisco, the United States of America. The purpose of the publication was to further the Indian independence movement with special focus on Indian sepoys of the British Indian Army. The weekly was first published in Urdu, followed by a Punjabi edition on 9th November.
Later, the paper was also published in Gujarati, Hindi, Pashto, Bengali, English, German, French and other languages. The issues were first handwritten before being printed using a small hand press. With the British government maintaining an iron grip on the press in India, the weekly emerged as an important publication to counter British propaganda.
The articles in Hindustan Gadar were initially authored by famous revolutionary Hardayal, with the printing operation run by another freedom fighter, Kartar Singh Sarabha, then a student of the University of California at Berkeley.
Copies of the paper were shipped to India with returning Gadarites and immigrants and were quickly deemed to be seditious and banned by the British Indian government. Careful measures were taken to shield the Gadar supporters from the British intelligence, which included the measure of memorizing over 1,000 names of subscribers so that no incriminating evidence could fall into the hands of the British government.
In March 1914, when the US government arrested Hardayal, he fled to Germany, leaving the operations to other members, including Ramchandra, Bhagwan Singh and Maulvi Barkatullah. They continued to spread information related to Indian independence and informed readers about the harshness of the British rule in India.
Other Indians also helped out with the press that printed not just the newspaper, but also compilations of nationalist compositions and pamphlets including Gadar Ki Goonj, Talwar and other publications which were also banned from British India.
On November 1st, 1858, India became a direct British colony after the commencement of the Government of India Act. The powers of the East India Company's Court of Directors were transferred to the Secretary of State for India, who was provided with an advisory body consisting of 15 members. A Viceroy was appointed to serve as the representative of the British Crown, and Lord Canning became the first Viceroy.
The Act ended the controversial doctrine of lapse, and the Indian civil services were constituted for the administration of the country, with a provision for Indians to be admitted to the service.
Today, on November 1st, 1954, the Union Territory of Puducherry was liberated from French colonialism.
After India became independent on August 15, 1947, India called for the unification of Pondicherry with the Union. India signed an agreement with France in June 1948, which gave power to the people to determine the political status of the territory.
However, in the municipal elections of Pondicherry, Karaikal and Yanam in October 1948, all municipalities except for one elected representatives of the French India Socialist Party, a pro-French group. The new councillors at a meeting accepted the autonomy offered by the French government.
However, in March 1954, members of the Executive Council, mayors of Pondicherry and 7 adjoining communes proclaimed their decision to merge with India without a referendum. All communes in Karaikal also followed suit, after which a referendum was conducted by the French administration in the border village of Kirur to ascertain the wish of the people.
On 18th October 1954, the municipal councillors and members of the Assembly gave their verdict in favour of merger with India. The agreement for the de facto transfer of the 4 remaining French settlements to India was signed on October 21st, 1954 and came into effect on November 1st, 1954.
France and India entered into a treaty establishing the cession by the French Republic to the Indian Union of the French establishments of Pondicherry, Karaikal, Mahe and Yanam.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Azadi Ka Safar with AIR News. See you in the next episode tomorrow.
आजादी के आंदोलन के खजाने में ऐसे ढेरों शब्द जिन्होंने बदल दिए इतिहास, तारीख बदलने वाले लफ्जों पर आकाशवाणी समाचार ला रहा है विशेष कार्यक्रम धरोहर हर सोमवार।
Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has declared victory for his ruling Liberal Democratic Party LDP. It was a big win for Mr. Kishida, who became Prime Minister only a month ago. His party secured more than 233 lower house seats, enough to govern without its coalition partner, Komeito. In ICC Men's T20 World Cup Cricket, England will take on Sri Lanka in the Super 12 match in Sharjah at 7:30 p.m. this evening.
Now let us take a look at the weather update for today. The national capital Delhi will have mainly clear sky. Minimum temperature was 17 degrees Celsius, while maximum is expected to be around 28 degrees. Mumbai will also have partly cloudy sky. Chennai is expected to have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain, and Kolkata will have mainly clear sky. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to participate in World Leaders Summit on COP26 in Glasgow this afternoon. G20 Summit adopts Rome Declaration. Member countries agree on reciprocal recognition of vaccines and faster approval by WHO. Prime Minister holds bilateral meetings with his Spanish counterpart and German Chancellor in Rome on the sidelines of G20 Summit. Har Ghar Dastak nationwide vaccination campaign begins from today. Country's vaccination coverage crosses 106 crore 34 lakh mark. Recovery rate stands at 98.20%. Several states celebrate their Foundation Day. Delhi schools reopen for all classes from today. Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia reviews dengue situation in Delhi. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida declares victory for his ruling Liberal Democratic Party. And in Men's T20 World Cup cricket, England to take on Sri Lanka in the Super 12 match in Sharjah this evening. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.gov.in and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the Midday News.